I'm your host, Captain Tyler Lauer. This week, we get to sit down with Captain Will Outlaw. He's chair of the new merger committee. We're going to get to know him, chat about the new committee, kind of their game plan and their purpose here as we move forward with the newly announced merger. Will, welcome. It's a pleasure to have you here today. Thank you for taking time out of your super busy schedule here. Hopefully today you can educate me and the rest of the pilot group about what's ahead. So welcome.
Thank you. We'll do the best we can.
Very good. Let's just get started with introduce yourself. Tell me your background with ALPA, with the airlines, and maybe if you've done merger stuff before. So yeah, just a little background about yourself.
Yeah, sure. So I've been at Sun Country coming up on 10 years. February 26th of 2016 is when I joined Sun Country. So I've been here coming on 10 years. Before that, I was at Compass for a couple of years, and I did basic safety school, accident investigation 1 and 2 at Compass. So I was an accident investigator at Compass, and luckily I never had to do anything with that role. And also did communications at Compass, did sort of their version of the ASEP Chronicles. And then when I came here to Sun Country 10 years ago, Brian Rosine, who was the MEC chairman at the time in new hire class, announced that I was the new comms chairman. So I was voluntold that I was going to be the comms chairman in new hire class at Sun Country. So I did comms for quite a number of years. And then starting probably around 2019, I got involved in the negotiating committee. And so I was working on the negotiating committee through the 2019 contract, and also was doing P2P work, a bunch of other work after that. I was elected as the FO rep and MEC vice chair, and did that job until approximately a year ago, and then was going to take a break from ALPA work, and then was sitting in, I don't remember exactly where the airport was, Cincinnati maybe, or Nashville, I don't know, on a Sunday when the merger was announced. And, oh crap, I think I'm probably going to get roped back in. And then a couple of days later, the phone rang, and Sam, I was on the other side of the line, and asked me if I would step up and help out with the merger committee. And so I told him, yeah, sure. I'm happy to do it.
Good to have you back. Yeah, I know a break can be good once in a while, but these are kind of unprecedented times moving forward, and I'm sure there is plenty of work for you to do here. Now, I'm also in P2P, and I know Sam's kind of maybe a few weeks ago had announced that we were going to start this committee just out of an abundance of caution, and then that timeline got accelerated pretty quickly. What do you see your role here now as the committee chair within the merger committee now that this merger has been officially announced? Let's say in your next 6 months to a year, what's your role look like? What's your planning look like? I think the rest of the committee's been announced, but are you looking for more pilots to help out? Are you doing a lot of strategic planning for what's coming forward? How does that all look?
So right now the focus is on getting the committee together and fleshed out. So we've got myself as the committee chair. Lindsay Dunham is another one, is our sort of our second committee member. I'm super happy that Lindsay is on the committee. She, as all the pilots here know Lindsay really well from her work in the chief pilot's office for years. And she is just an outstanding human being and really just the moral center of the airline in a lot of ways. And I think it was really important for me when we were putting this committee together that the people that we got on the committee were people that the pilot group could look at and would trust and would understand that those people have the best interests of all the pilots at heart, and that they're going to work really hard to see that all pilots are represented fairly. And Lindsay is just the epitome of that. And that's why I'm just super happy to have her on. So
Couldn't agree more. She was the chief pilot. She was chief when I got hired, and my wife was pregnant with twins. And I never felt like just because I was a new hire that I was worried about my job or I was worried about not making a training event. She was straight up with me, be honest with me. We're going to get this done. Got your back. Welcome to Sun Country. And yeah, she's absolutely is the heart and soul of the airline. It's people like that kind of make this place keep rolling forward. So that's great to hear that she's on board with you.
Yeah, I agree. So I was really happy that she was looking to step up and looking to get involved. And this is a big lift. The merger committee can be a pretty challenging role, and it's a tough one to take on. And I was really glad that she was willing to take it on. So we've got myself and Lindsay, then a got a third person that I've talked to who I think will come on. I'm really, really hoping that they do, because I think they'll just be absolutely outstanding at that. So right now the focus is on building out that committee. So it's getting the 3 committee members for the merger committee. And then from there, we'll start lining up our subject matter experts in some different areas. We'll be doing some training with Alpa National to really get their expertise on how these mergers go just procedurally, but also just how they go emotionally and how the politics of merging 2 pilot groups play out, and what our role is going to be as a merger committee moving forward. And there's so much expertise in Alpa, and that's one of the things that is really great about Alpa as a union, is that there is just an incredible amount of resources that are available for us. So we're not, making this up as we go along, and we're not feeling like we're left out on an island, and we've got to support Alpa National to help us guide us through this process, which is a long process. Mergers are difficult, especially when you get into things like this seniority list integration. Those are typically can be contentious. I don't know that they necessarily have to be, but they can be. And there are a lot of pilots who volunteer for Alpa who have been through it. So my other plan is to start reaching out to some of those pilots. Ronan O'Donoghue was one of them. He was at Virgin America when they merged with Alaska, and now he's at Alaska going through the Hawaiian merger. So I'll be tapping him on the shoulder and leaning on his expertise. And there's some other pilots out there as well who've got a lot of experience, and we'll just draw on that. And that will guide sort of our process going forward in our work. It's been really strange in a way, because I feel like being a pilot and sort of a type A, like all pilots, I get a little bit of type A in this. I'm like, oh my God, there's all this stuff that needs to happen right now. And there is, but at the same time, none of this stuff typically happens very quickly. And so there is some time, which is actually, that's not my wheelhouse, right? If I'm sitting here and I've got time, like, oh man, that's bad, right? I just want to work on stuff right away. So it's a little different understanding that this is a process that can take years, and sort of, preparing for that. But I think it's going to be good. I think we're going to build out a really strong committee. We're going to spend a lot of time understanding the issues, not only at Sun Country, but at Allegiant, and do everything that we can to facilitate really as smooth a merger as we can possibly get. When I think of this role, I think of it as obviously representing the interests of Sun Country pilots as best as I can, but also really just representing the interests of the pilot group as a whole. And that is both Sun Country and Allegiant pilots together. When this merger takes place, we are eventually going to be one unified pilot group. And the best way that pilot group can move forward is with unity and with support. And so I really see the role as representing all the pilots and doing the best that we can for all the pilots. And by all the pilots, I just mean all pilots. Right? So,
Yeah, absolutely. I remember talking to Sam after the merger was announced, and he discussed talking to the MECs over at Alaska and Hawaii. And then we have the Mesa and Republic merger going on as well. And different processes too, right? We've got an Alpa to Alpa carrier merger going on, and then the Mesa and Republic is Alpa to Teamsters. And so having just those resources out there is huge for us. And you kind of alluded to that. Now, you talked about the training that Alpa is going to provide to you. Do you know what kind of training that they have for you? Is there specific merger training that Alpa can provide, or is that sitting down with lawyers talking about this process, or what's that kind of look like?
yeah, I think the bulk of it is the second part, right? It's going to be sitting down with some of Alpa's attorneys who have been through this before, who know the lay of the land, and they're the ones who are going to walk us through the process, through there's sort of 2 paths. There's the Alpa Section 45 Alpa to Alpa merger path, and then there's the Allegheny Mohawk path, right? So there's 2 different paths that these things typically take. And they're going to walk us through that and get us smart on both of those. It's a merger of different units. So we have Teamsters at Allegiant, and we have Alpa here at Sun Country. but there is no reason why we can't use that Section 45 process. I think it is better for the pilot group as a whole because it drives towards consensus building throughout that entire merger process. But that's to be decided. Whatever process we get is the one that we're going to work with. But I think that building consensus amongst the pilot groups and really having as much pilot involvement as we possibly can is how we get the best outcome. And I think it's super important that all the pilots understand that sometimes it sounds a little trite, right? But our unity is our strength, and that actually is a real thing. And at the end of the day, once this merger is complete, we're going to have a management group that we're going to have to deal with. And a divided pilot group is going to be less effective at getting their needs met than a unified pilot group. And so a unified pilot group is really important. I just believe that really strongly. And that's what I will do the best that I can to achieve. So,
Yeah, absolutely. So we just got a few more minutes here, but maybe we can squash this rumor. I know a lot of younger pilots here have never seen a merger. There's always the horror stories. Can you squash the fear about seniority list integration and us just being stapled to the bottom of the seniority list?
yeah, there is a lot of fear, and rightfully so. This is a pretty significant event in a pilot's career, and there's a lot of uncertainty, right? The one question that everybody has is the one question that nobody can answer. And that is, what does this look like for me in 5 years? And there's nobody on earth who can actually answer that question right now, which is frustrating, right? And so I get it. The notion of stapling, at least to my understanding, not a thing. That there's a McCaskill Bond amendment that essentially governs, at least modifies sort of how seniority list integrations are done. One of the things that McCaskill Bond threw out was this notion of stapling. And honestly, we should back up because not everybody's going to know what stapling means. But what stapling means essentially is you would take one seniority list and you'd have two seniority lists that you were going to merge, and you would just take one seniority list and that would go right to the bottom of another seniority list. So you staple that on, right? That's not something that is allowed under McCaskill Bond, and it's not something generates unity in a pilot group, and it creates the optimum. Frankly, I don't know that anybody would advocate for that just because it's a really bad way to work. And now seniority list integrations they're complicated. They're really complicated, but the driving principles, at least to my understanding, is that the effort is to protect sort of the career expectations that pilots have, right? So to not damage those career expectations is really what you're striving for in a seniority list integration, right? If you're a junior FO, you are probably not going to become a senior captain through a seniority list integration, right? And if you're a senior captain, you're probably not going to be a plug FO someplace on reserve, right? That's just not how those things work. Ideally, you get to a point where everybody plays out where they were. And it looks like, all right, yeah, my career expectations look similar to what they were before the merger. And that's really what you're trying to achieve in a seniority list integration. And there have been some really bad ones in the past. And that's part of the reason why McCaskill Bond came into being, is because of those bad integrations in the past. Yeah. So I guess what I would say is I wouldn't worry too much about stapling. But seniority list integrations are difficult. They really are. You're not going to have 100% people are going to be happy, and you're not going to have 100% of the people being angry. It winds up being somewhere in the middle. And our job as a merger committee is to make that combined seniority list as fair as we possibly can for all the people who are on it, because that's how you build unity moving forward. And at the end of the day, remember that we could fight amongst ourselves, or we could be unified, and then we can work with management and achieve some good things. And it's really important to remember at the end of the day what we really need to keep our eye on. And that's on holding management's feet to the fire, getting good contracts that work for the pilots, but also work for the company. And that's really the key.
Absolutely. Yeah, it sounds like a very complex process. I've been in the office a few times talking with Sam and Mike Turner, and it seems like you guys have an absolute mountain to climb here in the next few years. Glad you came on board and came out of your little break, your little retirement there. If you had maybe some advice, a little message for the pilot group over the next 6 to 12 months on what we can be doing to support Alpa, support you guys, what would you say?
I would say stay involved, stay connected to the comms that come out. Those are really good. There's a lot of really good information in those comms, and really focus on factual information that's provided by the MEC, that's provided by Alpa. If you have questions, reach out. It is extremely difficult to counter posts on social media or whatever that really have no basis in fact, right? It takes 3 seconds for some guy to write something and type it on social media, and it can take months of work for your Alpha volunteers to actually get the truth out. And so I would just really encourage people to stay based in fact. And if you don't know something, that's okay. There's a lot that I don't know about what's coming up, and so my job is to learn about that. And I would encourage all of the pilots to do the same, and to just really focus on not speculating. I mean, we all speculate to some extent, right? But not presenting items as fact that aren't actual fact.
Yep.
That creates a huge workload on your Alpha volunteers part. But stay involved, go to the meetings, there's an LEC meeting on, I think, March 11th, I believe. So there's an LEC meeting coming up. Go to that. Stay in tune with the comms, use your P2P resources. I set that program up here, and it's one of the things that honestly I'm the most proud of. That is such a great resource. If you see a pilot wearing that red P2P lanyard, stop and talk to them. And they are there to provide you with the facts, and also to take your concerns back to the MEC. Yep. It's a two-way street. Take advantage of that P2P program for sure. It's fantastic. And again, please just stay based in fact, understand that the leadership at the MEC level, and understand that certainly at the merger committee level, myself, Lindsay, are working really hard with your best interests in mind. And hopefully people feel comfortable with that.
Excellent. Again, thank you so much for sitting down and raising your hand for this role. It's a big role, a lot of stuff coming down the pipe for you guys, I'm sure. Look forward to sitting down with you in the future. Obviously, as this information starts to come down the chain, we're going to want to hear about it. And I'd love to sit back down with you and hopefully Lindsay and hear more about that as you guys start making progress towards it. Thanks again for showing up.
Yeah, no, it's my pleasure. I think it's really important that we do these things, and that we do everything we can to keep the pilot group informed about what's going on, because that's how you counter a lot of the nonsense. And so I'll keep doing that on my end, and hopefully the pilots will keep reaching out and asking questions.
Perfect. Very good. For the rest of you pilots listening, if there's any other topics you want to hear more about, please send a dart to the communications committee. Don't forget to like us and follow us on social media. Please check out the Sun Country, MEC, and Merger websites for updates. And as always, fly safe, fly the contract.